Okay, we are live. Aloha, everyone, as you're starting to join. Just getting set up here. We are streaming live on Facebook as well. We're just going to give everyone some time to log into the webinar. Thank you all for joining us tonight. This is Maui Nui Marine Resource Council's monthly Know Your Ocean speaker series, and we'll give people just a couple minutes to join us. We have a great presentation ahead. Thank you all for being here. People are still logging in, so we'll just give everyone some time to join. Aloha, everyone. If you're just joining us, we're giving our attendees just a couple more minutes to log in, and we will get started shortly. Mahalo for being here. This presentation is being recorded, so you'll be able to go back to it at another time, share with friends. Okay, we have people still coming in, but I am going to go ahead and get us going here on this lovely Wednesday, October evening. Aloha and welcome. Mahalo everyone for joining today's webinar. My name is Jill Wirt and I will be your MC for tonight. I am a project manager with Maui Nui Marine Resource Council. Tonight we are joined by Tiara Stark, project manager for the Nature Conservancy's Maui Marine Program. Tonight, Tiara will present on her extensive marine debris research that took place in 6 Maui streams. To hear more about talks like these, sign up for our free monthly e-newsletter, Reef and Brief at mauireefs.org. Maui Nui Marine Resource Council is a 501c3 nonprofit celebrating 15 years of working for clean ocean water, healthy coral reefs, and abundant native fish. Our work began with community members coming together to address concerns for coastal and marine resource management. Our work would not be possible without the support of viewers and donors like you. Tonight's presentation is part of Maui Nui Marine Resource Council's monthly Know Your Ocean speaker series, usually held on the first Wednesday of each month at 5:30 p.m. via Zoom. This monthly series is supported by the County of Maui. Our next speaker series will be held on Wednesday, November 1st at 5:30 p.m. via Zoom, where we will be featuring Kira Hughes and Hanale Ho'opai Silva with Restore with Resilience from Oahu. Before we get started, I wanted to share a few announcements from Maui Nui Marine Resource Council. Our Hui Okavaiola community-based water quality monitoring program lost our lab in the Lahaina fire. Mahalo to all who have donated so far to help us recover our equipment and supplies to be able to continue to respond and monitor the environment. At this time, we're hoping to find a container or trailer office to be the new home of the lab. If you have access to or availability of a container for our use, please contact us at info@mauireefs.org. We also need a location for it on the west side that would eventually have water and electric hookups. The Hui monitors 37 locations across leeward Maui, and is a collaborative effort between the Nature Conservancy and West Maui Ridge to Reefs Initiative in partnership with the State of Hawaii Department of Health Clean Water Branch. If you enjoy the beauty of Maui's oceans, you know that it takes a lot to monitor and assess what happens in the ocean. MNMRC has been working diligently with partner agencies and organizations since the wildfire to ensure our precious ecosystems are protected from further damage. This is challenging for all involved as we navigate unknowns and human safety. Hui o Kawaiola volunteers after the fire collected water quality samples from all accessible West Maui sites. We also have our reef-friendly landscaping program, and we're helping to protect the health of Maui's marine life by offering 12 local properties a complimentary test plot around 10,000 square feet using a locally made biological soil amendment. In addition to receiving the complimentary test plot, participating properties will also have the opportunity to pursue a reef-friendly landscaping certification with Maui Nui Marine Resource Council. After the fire, our Hui o Kawaiola water quality volunteers collected water samples. We've also collected continuous data profiles of water conditions in front of Lahaina and North Kihei, capturing info on turbidity, salinity, acidity, and oxygen content. This will help us understand changes over time in response to fire and stormwater runoff. We also had a presentation with Flying Fish Technologies team that extensively mapped Maui's leeward reefs during a week of fieldwork. This large-scale documentation of Maui's reefs, along with AI and ML-driven processing technologies, opens up a remarkable set of opportunities to view and study Maui's reefs in ways that were impossible until now. The survey provides a pre-impact baseline that can be referenced in the future to determine when, if, and where downstream effects are having negative effects on local coral reefs. And that presentation can be viewed on our YouTube channel, Maui Reefs. We're also ready to capture the first flush or initial discharge from burned watersheds when rains arrive. In coordination with partners, we'll collect water and sediment samples. Many of these initial response efforts are unfunded, and we appreciate any support that you can provide that will help us conduct monitoring to inform best management practices for recovery for both people and the environment. To donate, you can visit mauireefs.org/donate. A few notes before we introduce our speaker. We will leave time at the end of the presentation to answer your questions, and we invite you to submit your questions by using the Q&A button on the lower edge of your Zoom screen. This presentation is being recorded and streamed to Facebook Live and will be available on our YouTube and Facebook profiles. If you're viewing live from Facebook, you can submit your questions as a comment and I will relay them here. And now for our speaker, Tiara Stark, who grew up on Maui within a Polynesian family, developed a profound admiration for the natural ecosystems of Hawaii, which inspired her to pursue a career in marine conservation. After completing her postgraduate degree, Tiara returned to her island home of Maui to actively contribute to community conservation endeavors. These included part-time positions as a research coordinator with Maui Nui Marine Resource Council and as a senior team lead with MNMRC's partnership program, Hui o Kawaiola. Tiara is currently a project manager for the Nature Conservancy's Maui Marine Program, where she leads and supports a range of research and monitoring projects, as well as community-led conservation initiatives, all aimed at the shared objective of safeguarding, managing, and revitalizing marine ecosystems for future generations. Tiara's dedication to marine conservation is also evident in her personal interests, which include snorkeling, scuba diving, and sustainable fishing. Mahalo for being here, Tiara. I will let you take it from here.
Thanks, Jill. Thank you for that great introduction. I'm just going to share my screen real quick. Let me know if you can see that, please.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Yeah, so thank you everybody for being here tonight and for joining this presentation. So today I'll be sharing just some preliminary insights from our stream and gulch trash debris monitoring study, including trash composition and origins, while highlighting the potential impact of the local community on marine debris along Maui's beaches. And this study was funded by the National Geographic's Early Career Grant and the Atherton Family Foundation. So the island of Maui has many streams and gulches that play a crucial role in the island's ecosystem and to the well-being of Maui residents. They support traditional practices like subsistence fishing and serve as a water source for lo'i or taro cultivation. They offer recreational opportunities for locals and visitors, which can have economic benefits for the region. And when streams are healthy, they can help control erosion and improve water quality by stabilizing that land, preventing soil runoff, and acting as a natural filter. And of course, they support biodiversity. So they provide habitat for various fish species, including the endemic o'opu alamo'o fish, which rely on unobstructed movement between freshwater streams and the ocean for their migration life cycle. So although streams serve as an essential pathway for fish like o'opu, streams can also serve as conduits for various pollutants and trash from local land-based sources to the ocean. A particular concern is plastic debris due to its longevity and wide dispersal ability. So once in the ocean, plastic will break down due to wave action and physical abrasion, and it fragments into smaller pieces, which makes it more likely to be ingested by a variety of animals. Whether purposely dumped or even accidentally transported, trash and plastic debris can entangle or be ingested by birds, fish, sea turtles, sharks, and marine mammals. And many of these animals are found only in the Hawaiian Islands and are already at risk. For example, the endemic Hawaiian monk seal is one of the most critically endangered mammals in the world, with an estimated about 1,200 individuals remaining. And unfortunately, their habitat, their behavior, and their diet has all kind of made them a bit more exposed to marine pollution, and it puts them at high risk for ingestion of plastic debris or entanglement. And subsequently, Hawaiian monk seals actually have one of the highest entanglement rates of any pinniped species. So while many residents often believe marine debris comes from somewhere else because we find it, on the beach, on the coastline, the truth is that a lot of it, a lot of this trash and plastic pollution actually originates from home, from our island. So research studies such as this one by Blakely et al. In 2016 have found that there are large amounts of land-based debris accumulation on Maui's leeward shoreline, which further supports local sources of marine debris. In addition, many of Maui's streams are actually gulches that are dry for much of the year. And so these gulches will accumulate trash blown into them from nearby roadways. They're also often used for illegal dumping, and there's also encampments for people experiencing homelessness. And so during seasonal rainstorms, these gulches then potentially deposit all of that accumulated trash into the ocean. Despite this threat, no prior studies have actually quantified trash and plastic debris in Maui streams and coastal stream mouths. So we set out to collect essential data on how local streams and gulches contribute to land-based marine debris along the island's coastline. And this includes developing baseline characterization data on streams and gulches that are source pathways for terrestrial debris to the coastline, quantifying and classifying trash to better understand composition and to pinpoint potential sources, to prevent debris accumulation, to do an early assessment of the efficacy of the single-use plastic foodware ban, and lastly, to raise community awareness about our role in marine debris. And so it is our hope that this information will inform better stream and waste management decisions, and will raise awareness and encourage community members to take ownership of their environment. And so if we can manage this local stressor, we only help enhance the resilience of our streams, coral reefs, and coastal resources in the face of climate change. So in order to better understand our local community's role in marine debris, we monitored 6 stream and gulch sites across Maui from December 2022 through January 2023. We monitored sites in central and leeward Maui, including Upumehame Stream, Kahana Stream, Kanaio Gulch, Kawa'ula Stream, Wailuku Stream, and an unnamed gulch at Cove Beach Park. Site selection and duration of the survey period was determined by when permission was granted and whether there was safe access year-round. We also set out to select sites that varied in their trash debris loads and that had direct drainage outputs to the coastline and that represented a range of physical and recreational conditions. Since it was the first study of its kind on Maui, cost-effective monitoring and removal protocols were modified for Maui's unique stream and gulch habitats. And so the survey monitoring methods we used were actually adopted and modified from the Environmental Protection Agency's Volunteer Stream Monitoring Methods Manual and California's Regional Water Quality Control Board's Rapid Trash Assessment Protocol. So at each stream or gulch site, staff selected 2 or 3 100-foot sections with at least one section below and above a potential pollution source. The below section was always starting at the stream mouth and then going 100 feet up because we did want to capture the movement of trash to the coastline. And the number of sections per stream were again determined by permission and safe access. So here's an example of our Kanaio Gulch site. So you can see that there's 3 sections. Section 1 is above any obvious pollution sources. Section 2 is adjacent to that busy roadway. And then section 3 is actually all the way down there at the coastal stream mouth. And the potential pollution source here that we've highlighted is that really busy roadway. At each section, 2 one-time surveys were conducted to develop baseline characterization data on streams that are point source polluters of trash. And so we investigated physical characteristics such as stream width, depth, bank vegetation and channel alteration, and recreational characteristics like access, proximity to urbanized areas, recreational use, and activities. Following this, staff conducted monthly trash removal and monitoring surveys to characterize temporal and spatial variability, to pinpoint sources, and to prevent debris accumulation. Statistical analyses were conducted in Microsoft Excel and RStudio, and we used a significance level of 0.05 to determine the finding as significant or insignificant. And before I share results, I do just want to emphasize that these findings are preliminary and we do intend to conduct a more in-depth analysis to refine and expand upon them. So during the survey period, a total of 4,428 trash items weighing approximately 350 pounds were cataloged and removed from 15 100-foot sections across 6 sites during 117 surveys. We found that Kanaio Gulch had the most trash items, followed by Wailuku Stream, Kahana Stream, the unnamed gulch at the Cove Park, Kauaula Stream, and then Ukumehame Stream. Average trash items collected per site was comparable to total trash load, except for Kahana Stream, which actually surpassed Wailuku Stream. And this might potentially be due to the high number of trash items, specifically plastic from historical agriculture that was found during a smaller number of surveys. But yeah, so these patterns were further supported with statistical significance. The 3 most common categories of trash items found were plastics, followed by biodegradable and miscellaneous items. When assessing the most abundant types of plastic across all sites, soft agricultural plastic or black plastic bags that were used for a variety of agricultural related reasons were the most abundant. The other most common types of plastic we found were hard plastic pieces, soft plastic pieces, hard agricultural plastic or drip irrigation lines, and plastic wrappers. And despite the very high abundance of agricultural plastics that we found, 99% of the soft and 75% of the hard agricultural plastics were actually found at a single site, Kahana, which is unsurprising considering that nearby land use history, which we'll cover in a future slide. The most abundant types of biodegradable trash items were paper and cardboard, with most of these items found at Kanaio Gulch and Wailuku Stream. So in the photos, you can see there's a large piece of cardboard in that trash bag I'm holding, and then there's a random thing we found, fake lashes, but there's like a cardboard / plastic box. So very common at this site, lots of random fun finds. Average daily trash accumulation based on the surveyed area was highest at Kanaio with an average of 5.54 pieces per day across the surveyed area, followed by Wailuku with 2.19 pieces of trash per day. We also calculated the trash accumulation rates by dividing the number of trash items per day by the surveyed area. And it's difficult to determine whether these rates, where these rates fall on a scale of low to high, just because accumulation rate does vary based on specific context and location of an area. So it can be dependent on, factors like population density and waste management practices, local policy and regulation. But in any case, we did notice that daily trash accumulation was mostly stable throughout the project period. However, there does seem to be a noticeable decline at the two sites with more trash debris, which are Kanaio and Wailuku, as one might expect with continued trash removal on a monthly basis. And then you may also see that there are two sharp increases at Kanaio and Kahana, the former occurring on our survey that we did in April 2022, and the latter occurring in September 2022. And so we're not really sure what the cause of this spike is. It's possible that it might have been due to a heavy rain event, like the low pressure system that caused flooding in Kihei on September 9th, or the consistently strong winds of Ma'alaia. So those are some potential things that may have played a role, but we can't say for sure. So stream and gulch sites and sections varied in neighboring land use and access, ranging from sites adjacent to high density residential areas, which are areas that have more than 5 dwellings per acre, and there's a lot of active recreational use, to more unused, undeveloped areas with no signs of access. So as we expected, anecdotal observations did support higher trash loads near more used and frequented areas, and trash compositions seem to be largely influenced by historical and nearby land use. For example, Kanaio Gulch had significantly more trash pollution in total and on average. And this site is located near the windiest harbor in the world, the second windiest harbor in the world, Ma'alaia Harbor, and runs parallel to a busy highway. And anecdotal evidence based on those observations and trash composition does suggest that the trash is mostly incidental or unintentional and likely just flies out of those passing cars or gets blown into the gulch by those strong Ma'alaia winds. Similarly, Wailuku Stream runs through the middle of the third most populous city in Maui Island, Wailuku, and it is also a popular recreational area for swimming. And it has a large unhoused population living within the stream culvert. And so all of the above are likely sources of trash introduction into the stream. So for example, we did find a lot of clothing items, toiletries, fast food trash, and things like cigarettes at this site. The unnamed gulch at Cove Park has attributes that are similar to Kanaio and Wailuku, and that the place experiences high recreational use. It's a very popular surf spot at that cove. It's adjacent to a busy roadway. The gulch runs right under South Kihei Road, and there's also a very small houseless encampment there. And this also influenced the types of trash we found as well. The impact of historical land use was most evident at Kahana Stream, where 95% of the trash were plastics attributed to historical agriculture, including drip irrigation lines that were used to direct water to the root zone of plants, and black trash bags, which can be used during the propagation and planting process for crops like pineapple. And pineapple farming was a significant industry in Kahana, Maui for several decades, starting in the earlier 20th century to the late 20th century. And so it's not completely, it's not a big surprise that we did find signs of that historic land use. In contrast, Ukumehame and Ko'ula streams had the least amount of trash in total and on average, despite both streams having types of nearby land use that could contribute to trash pollution. For example, Ko'ula had a high density residential area near the shoreline, and Ukumahame, the stream mouth runs right underneath that busy coastal roadway. But the middle and upper sections of both streams are also largely undeveloped, only have rural residential housing. So like one house on like 1 to 5 acres. So that, the latter might help explain why there's such low amounts of trash found at these stream sites. But overall, we did find that trash amount and composition really was influenced heavily by current nearby land use as well as historic land use. Sites also differed in physical characteristics, with some streams and gulches being almost completely man-made and others totally unmodified. And in most cases, each of these 100-foot sections would have a combination of things. So there would be like 20% that's cement, 20% that's heavy vegetation, then there's 10% that's a bunch of cobbles. And so there was just a lot of diversity here when it comes to physical characteristics. So that high within stream and gulch diversity did make it difficult to extrapolate any concrete patterns at the moment, but anecdotal observations do suggest that streams with more streambed material like vegetation and boulders, like pictured here in Kanaia and Wailuku, are able to better capture trash, preventing it from flowing further downstream. Whereas streams with impervious man-made bottoms like cement usually had less trash lingering when we would come do our surveys. Recreational characteristics were a bit more telling. So anecdotally, streams or gulches that were used more for recreation did have more signs of access and use. For example, the upper and lower sections of Wailuku Stream are very popular swimming areas, and trash composition at these sites matched that recreational use, with drink, cigarette, and food snack trash littering the recreating area. So you can see there's a photo on the top left that we found at the upper section, where there's a big, nice swimming hole for locals, and somebody had shoved a bunch of plastic food wrappers into rocks, hoping that they wouldn't fly away or find their way into the water. There's also an area in Wailuku Stream where a large in-house population lived for the entirety of the project period. And in areas where these folks did congregate, we did find more personal care products with chemicals that may be harmful to aquatic environments, including soap, shampoo, and conditioner. Sites with artificial access did not largely differ from sites without it. Users would create their own paths if access was desired. So I don't think it was a matter of access. I think it's a matter of nearby land use and whether there's recreation happening in that area. There were also more trash items found in sections below potential points of trash introduction than the most upper stream sections across all sites. This is with the exception of Kahana Stream. And this might be due to the fact that we had a very low sample size for the lower stream mouth section of Kahana Stream, because they actually cut it off for construction of that bridge there after we had only done a few surveys, which is unfortunate. And it could also be due to like the heavy skewness of having more plastic and trash upland because of that heavy agricultural use in the past. In any case, total and average number of trash items were highest in middle and in middle stream sections, followed by lower and upper sections. And this does match our anecdotal observations, suggesting that most pollution sources are located near the middle of a stream section rather than higher up or further below. In addition, many streams and ditches had natural vegetation growth or other streambed material between surveyed middle and lower stream sections, which could potentially act as a filter, preventing trash debris from reaching those lower sections of the stream. Seasonality might also impact how trash pollution moves through a stream or gulch system. So only 2 of the selected streams we monitored are perennial, which means that they flow year round, and those were Ukumehame and Wailuku. while all of the others have intermittent flow after heavy rainfall. And surveys were conducted during dry season more often than wet season. However, we did find a higher number of trash items collected during the wet season on average, but the difference between the wet and dry season was not statistically significant. However, anecdotal evidence does suggest that more trash items are found during rainy months, potentially from the movement of trash from upper or more inaccessible areas to lower parts of a stream or gulch with heavy rainfall. On a few occasions, agricultural plastics, such as drip irrigation lines, pictured on the right, and other debris have been found wrapped around vegetation in sections. So it was clear that that had happened through heavy runoff after a large rain event. We also observed bent grass along the edges and within a stream or gulch, further supporting that movement, that high velocity movement of water, especially during heavy rain events. And so that does have some implications for, potentially the movement of trash from upland or Malka to the ocean or Makai. One of our objectives was to do an early assessment of the efficacy of the state of Hawaii's March 1st, 2022 ban on single-use plastic foodware. So if you recall, the ban prohibits the sale or use of plastic disposable foodware by any food provider, person, or business, except approved by exemption, and would require provision of non-plastic takeout and food packages after order and non-plastic straws and utensils at request only. Although plastic was the most abundant category of trash that we collected, unfortunately, plastic disposable foodware described in the ban was not common during our study, preventing us from performing any statistical analysis to assess the early efficacy of the ban. So that's very unfortunate, because I know that that was something that I'm sure folks were excited to hear about. We also, our start date for our field work did actually get pushed back several times, over a year, because we actually did get awarded funds in early 2020, but after COVID, things just kind of got delayed. And so we were only able to do a few surveys before the plastic ban actually went into place. And even if we did collect enough data, there was still some concern about how reliable that data was, because several businesses were granted temporary exemptions from the plastic foodware ban due to COVID-19 related shipping delays. So that could have clouded any effect that the ban may be having. The ban also prohibits the use or sale of polystyrene foam coolers. So in our study, we did find styrofoam pellets actually accounted for 6% of total plastic pollution found across all sites, with the most amount found in Kanai'o Gulch. So 74% of all styrofoam pellets were found at Kanai'o Gulch. This is, again, isn't totally unsurprising. Kanai'o Gulch runs parallel to that busy highway and is located near the second windiest harbor in the world, Maui Harbor. And just based on our observations, we do believe that the polystyrene foam is coming primarily from packaging materials, because we would find, large cardboard boxes with those large polystyrene foam things to help so nothing breaks. So we think that it was likely incidental trash blowing out from the, a truck bed on the passing highway or something like that, and maybe not so much from those coolers, especially if the ban is in place. So in summary, the study definitely highlights the importance of streams and gulches on Maui and the role they may play, the threat of trash and plastic pollution, the local sources of marine debris, and the need for data collection and management to address this issue effectively. It emphasizes the impact of nearby land use and trash pollution and provides preliminary findings that really set the stage for further analysis and research in this area. So based on our preliminary analysis, we did have the following conclusions. So unfortunately, harmful plastics are the most common types of land-based trash debris in surveyed areas. and likely further and farther wide. Trash accumulation rates vary by local context and factors, including population density, environmental factors, and local policies and regulation. The quantity and composition of trash are heavily influenced by nearby and historical land use, with sites near high-density residential areas, highways, and recreational areas tended to have higher trash pollution. This study also reveals that the surveyed streams and gulches in Maui exhibit diverse physical characteristics, including variations in streambed material, modification by human activities, as well as the influence of access, use, and seasonal factors, all of which contribute to variations in trash accumulation and movement within these waterways. And so understanding these physical attributes is really essential for developing effective strategies to manage and hopefully mitigate these land-based marine debris in coastal environments. We also found that sites with more vegetation and streambed material did tend to hold more debris in place, potentially preventing it from running down to the coastline. And lastly, regular observations suggest high velocity movement of water and potentially trash after heavy rainfall. And this is especially important when you're considering those dry gulches like Kanaio that can just accumulate all of this trash in the stream or gulch over months, a very long period of time. Through this pilot study, several recommendations for future research have emerged. This first and foremost does include a more comprehensive and in-depth analysis of the data that we actually have, so we can expand upon these results and identify additional trends and draw just more robust conclusions about trash accumulation and its drivers. Long-term monitoring would be beneficial, especially if it's targeted at priority sites with high trash accumulation that we identified through our study, and at a higher frequency than just one time per month, so that you can better assess trash accumulation rates, especially in response to any management efforts. Now that more time has passed, I think it would be beneficial to do a more comprehensive assessment of the plastic ban's effectiveness. To effectively address the issue of marine debris, it is also crucial to identify and attribute specific sources of pollution. So further research should aim to pinpoint the origins of different types of trash and plastic debris on a more fine scale than we have in this study. And that can help inform targeted mitigation efforts. One could also extend the research to include a broader geographic area on Maui to gain a more comprehensive understanding of trash pollution patterns across the island, investigating the effectiveness of regular trash removal monitoring programs and reducing accumulation and preventing entry of trash debris into the water. Conducting behavioral studies is also something of interest to better understand why and how individuals contribute to land-based marine debris, so that we can explore strategies for helping to change that behavior. And evaluating waste management practices to help identify areas for enhancement to prevent trash from reaching streams in coastal areas. So addressing the local land-based trash pollution issue really requires a multifaceted approach that involves various stakeholders. Our data does show, yes, monthly removal of trash debris is super helpful, but it returns, it refills up, so it's not solely a solution. So we definitely want to explore other litter prevention strategies. So some potential solutions include launching a public awareness campaign to educate residents and visitors about the environmental impacts of littering and to also promote responsible consumer behavior. Installing strategically placed trash and recycling bins so proper disposal is convenient. And this is one that I always think of because I'm sure we all know how many swimming holes or beaches or just places that people are hanging out do not have a simple trash bin. And it's so frustrating because that would really help prevent waste mismanagement. Enforcing littering laws and increasing surveillance and reporting mechanisms so that we can deter illegal dumping. Investing in improved infrastructure such as stormwater management systems and trash capture devices and streams and drainage systems. Advocating for more support for folks that are experiencing homelessness or houselessness, such as shelters and social services. And of course, organizing regular community cleanup events to remove trash from beaches, streams, and public areas, and to encourage community members to take ownership of their environment. So on that same note, we have actually held 4 public cleanups in the past at Kanaio Gulch, Waiahu Beach Park, and near Wailuku Stream. And during those cleanups, we had 32 wonderful volunteers help MNMRC staff remove 65 bags of trash weighing approximately 900 pounds. So yeah, that's awesome. You can see these cleanups and community efforts are super important. And I think that they're done at a higher frequency and maybe at more targeted areas and times of the year, they could really actually make a dent in the land-based marine debris problem. And we do plan to continue these opportunities to prevent trash accumulation in these places and hopefully to prevent any further transfer to the coastline. So please stay connected, as Jill said, sign up with MNMRC so you can receive any news about future cleanups and events regarding this study. And with that, I'd like to give a special shout out and mahalo to some folks. So thank you to Lauren Flickley, Shelby Sarah, and Cheryl King for advising me during the earlier stages of this project. Mahalo to my research assistant, McClenna Pierce, for all of your dedication and hard work. To MNMRC, thank you for all of the opportunities and for supporting this. And mahalo to all the landowners in the County of Maui for providing access to make this work possible. And lastly, a big mahalo to our funders, National Geographic and the Atherton Family Foundation. And of course, thanks to everybody who was able to tune in to learn more about this work.
Thank you so much, Tiara. That is a lot of surveys and a lot of trash. And I think trash is always a very compelling thing to talk about because it's very visible and it's very tangible. And we see a lot of it here. So, but I don't think people realize when we work with it, we're sometimes knee deep in it, sifting through, sorting it. I know I've done my fair share of marine debris collection and sorting, and it just comes with the job to understand and learn more. So thank you so much for sharing all about that and for taking the time to just dive in and share with us. We have time for questions. So for those who are watching, you can fill in questions in the Q&A box at the lower edge of your screen, and I will relay them out loud. If you're viewing on Facebook Live, you can post your question as a comment, and I will relay it here as well. I have a question that came up for me because I know here, and especially on windward sides of the island, a lot of the debris comes from the ocean. And so I'm wondering, from your perspective, did this study give you more of an insight of kind of that ratio of stream or land-based versus ocean-based?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, as you said, I think it really does depend on what side of the island, just given the different environmental factors at play. And I think you can use that to help determine or differentiate between, okay, this might, like all of this trash on the beach looks like it's came from the ocean because it's related to like marine activities, you know, it could be like fishing nets. And so that's a big that's a big clue as to where the origin of the trash is. But like on sides of the island where it's not regular to see, you know, a bunch of trash in that debris line after the tide goes down. And then you have like this trash that's kind of littering through the culvert, you know, or like through the stream, and you're like, oh, it's like a little trail, like this had to have come, you know, from upstream of Malka. But in terms of like the ratio, I'd say like at the sites that we went to, except for, I would say like Wailuku is tricky because that shoreline gets a lot of debris, marine debris. But and I think majority of the trash on that beach is marine based. It's not from here, in my perspective. Although not to say or downplay the role that local, you know, that local land-based marine debris ends up there. But I would say it just, yeah, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to give like a straight answer, but definitely depends on the area and the factors that are influencing the movement of trash, like in the ocean as well as in the stream bed. Yeah, that wasn't a straight answer, but
No, it's great. There's so many factors to consider, like you're saying, you know, depending on what side of the island you're on and the winds and the ocean, how it's moving things. So yeah, great answer. Very, very insightful. What was most surprising to you in this study with your findings?
I think it was like, I guess I just never realized how diverse and variable like these streams and gulches are. Like you kind of go into it thinking it's going to be a bit more straightforward. You're like, oh yeah, like, you know, Wailuku River stream is like all cemented, like, oh, it should be pretty straightforward. But no, like things change, like vegetation grows in the middle of your survey area. So just kind of like just not realizing how much that could also complicate, you know, our data analysis. As I mentioned during my presentation, it made it difficult to do any in-depth analysis because of that variation. Not to say that I don't want to try. I think it's just yeah, it's just how variable all the streams were. And I think one special moment that pops up is like because of these surveys, like we were able to go into places that like people aren't going really, like especially up in the upper stream section. So like Kawaula stream was really special because after the rain event, we actually were seeing it flow because it's usually like dry, and it was just really cool to like be able to see that because not everybody gets to see that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is a interesting spot now as well, because it goes through that the Puamana complex, correct? So that would be interesting after obviously some of the fires that happened and how what gets transported that way as well. I mean, do you have plans to do it any further, check in on it? I mean, I feel like sometimes you get attached to sites, you're like, oh, I just want to pop in and see.
I know. I mean, of course I would want to see. I still personally have not gone back really into that side of the island yet, just out of respect and stuff. But I mean, yeah, when that time is right, I would be curious to see. I mean, as we can imagine, with the fires destroying all of the infrastructure and all of the vegetation that potentially could have prevented debris, like trash from running off, like there's all this impervious surfaces now, and stuff can just run straight down. And so I'm sure, you know, as we all know, that's expected with heavy rainfall. And I know like the county and others are really trying to put in pollution control measures to prevent that from happening as much as possible. But yeah, it's definitely upsetting. And yeah, I would be curious to see how that landscape has changed since we did all these other surveys.
Right. Yeah. And how water flow, how the hydrology might change too. It might not go into gulches or streams because it might just go straight down through the area. Okay, I'll answer Scott's question in the Q&A box, or I'll share it. Are there other policy changes beyond single-use plastic bans that could have significant impacts on debris sources?
Yeah, I wonder. So I thought about that. So I think I mentioned, I don't know if it's a policy, but just like the waste management infrastructure that we have set up, like, you know, trash bins overfill, so people end up putting their trash on the side. There's places where you could totally add a trash or recycle, you know, bin to help prevent just folks kind of laying it on the wayside. But yeah, I don't know how, I'm not sure just offhand what other policy like that you could just implement that would be easy to enforce. Because even like the plastic ban is like kind of hard to enforce. We're still seeing, I still see plastic bags being served at some local stores. I'm not going to drop names, but you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. It's like whatever policy you do put in place, you have to make sure like that there's that enforcement piece of it, and holding people accountable, or it's probably not gonna do a ton.
Right.
But yeah, definitely want to think about that further. Thanks for your question, Scott.
Yeah. Another one in the Q&A from Monica. You mentioned that vegetation had an impact on trash accumulation. Does that mean that planting more native plants could help prevent some of this trash from getting to the ocean? Is that a possible solution?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think native or non-native would help. Native is always ideal because those root systems are able to stabilize soil better. They hold more moisture to prevent things like fire. So native plants is always the solution, I think, when you're thinking about planting vegetation. And then you just really do have to consider just like the natural stream bed, because it really goes through these changes over the course of the seasons. And we witnessed that, there would be parts of it where there's just cobbles, and then all of a sudden it's covered in sand and dirt, and then all of a sudden there's vegetation. So also just being strategic about where you would want to plant those native plants if you're going to put that much effort into it, to make sure that you're not disrupting any sort of flow that's necessary, like, which I think it would be okay, right, if you didn't do too much to like prevent any, you don't want to obstruct flow completely. But I think if you were strategic about it, it could definitely be a useful solution.
Yeah, I think that's part of, there's some stormwater management, grates that can go on the culverts or that have been discussed to go on culverts down in Kihei to prevent a lot of the debris from going into the ocean there during those major flood events. And so it is interesting, whether they're natural using plants, or I guess artificial physical barriers, and how that would affect natural systems, and being conscious of that. Because it is, I mean, one way to do it, of just stopping it overall from going into the ocean. But yeah, like you're saying, being strategic about placement and materials as well. Antoinette has a question as well. Are there additional changes us residents could do, like laundry detergent sheets as opposed to the plastic bottles, along with reused produce bags, that you would suggest?
Yeah, I would say like kind of all the things that I think are already on our radar, like you mentioned, like choosing kind of like the eco-friendly alternative of everything if you can, I know it's not always easy, sometimes it's more expensive. But just trying to hold yourself accountable in those daily activities and daily purchases. Yeah, and then just always also kind of just sharing that knowledge, I think, is really powerful within your circle, and instilling that type of positive behavior in your loved ones and in your family. And so that can kind of also spread, because I think that's a big part of it, is just like the human behavior. So yeah, I think you're on the right track already with like what you're doing, Antoinette.
Yes, I think there's a big need for composting and diverting food waste and green waste, because all of it's going to the landfill. It takes up a lot of room, and it's a good way to, reduce, I guess, your trash, make it smaller, make it less, whatever you're throwing away is going to the landfill. So reducing that amount is a big one too. But yes, the human behavior, actually having behavior change, is huge, because you can do all the education, but what's actually going to drive people to make decisions differently? It's very interesting. Well, I don't have any more questions, and we're approaching 6:30 here. If you want, I would be happy to share your email to everyone in the chat if they have more questions and wanted to contact you. We can do it via email. And again, if we host more cleanups, that will be advertised most likely through our Reef and Brief newsletter, and you can sign up there at mauireefs.org. But thank you so much, Tiara. I will go ahead and close us out. Thanks again. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
And yeah, I'll share your email once it's typed in here. And then we will close out. Okay. Yes, thank you again, everyone, for being here. We're so appreciative of Tiara's work and for all of your involvements watching these presentations. To our audience, thank you. This is our monthly Know Your Ocean speaker series made possible with support from the County of Maui. Our next Know Your Ocean speaker series event will be held on Wednesday, November 1st at 5:30 p.m. on Zoom. Our next speaker will be with Kira Hughes and Hanale Ho'opai Silva, presenting on their coral restoration work with Restore with Resilience. Again, to sign up for this talk and future talks, you can sign up for a monthly e-newsletter, Reef and Brief at mauireefs.org. You can support ocean water quality monitoring on Maui by volunteering or donating to our community-based water quality monitoring program, Hui o ka Waiʻola, the program that I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation. This program is conducted by Maui Nui Marine Resource Council, the Nature Conservancy, and West Maui Ridge to Reefs Initiative in partnership with the State of Hawaii Department of Health, Clean Water Branch. Our program leads and volunteers test ocean water quality every 3 weeks at 37 locations in South and West Maui. You can support the expansion of new sites by donating at huiokawaiʻola.com. Your contributions make a difference. You can support Mauka to Makai restoration projects and post-fire monitoring efforts, reef-friendly landscaping, coral restoration, limu sampling for nitrogen isotopes, water quality monitoring, 3D reef mapping, and pesticide testing. A small amount goes a long way for Maui Nui's reefs. Donate now at mauireefs.org. If you've missed some or all of tonight's presentation, you'll be able to view it on Facebook Live on our Maui Nui Marine Resource Council Facebook page and our YouTube channel, Maui Reefs. And you can follow us on social media as well for updates and news. And last but not least, we want to thank our sponsors and supporters who are making all of our work possible. We also wish to thank individual donors like you. Mahalo for making a difference. And mahalo for joining us tonight. We will see you next month, November 1st at 5:30 p.m. via Zoom. Aloha.